Hi, I'm Christine Brown Woolley, author and narrator of Sister Wife. My book is going to be coming out so soon. I'm so excited. Is that too fast? Through that?
Hey, welcome back to my channel. So, do you recall how for years we've talked about polygamy and how it's absolutely bad on women? How it is absolutely bad for their self-esteem, their self-worth, and their self-value, and to their overall agency, be able to think for themselves and be in charge of their own life. We've talked about how there is this disrespect for them from individuals in these cults, and really how the entire system relies upon this misogynistic notion that a woman's only purpose is to cater to men. But because women are far more than being a man's servant, because we are multifaceted and we can be more than a man's helpmate, the system itself finds itself forcing women to play a role where they don't wish to play. It confines them to being merely a tool for a man, a tool to be used for sex and to bear children. And I think this devaluation that happens within polygamy is really what actually causes the competitiveness, the hierarchies, the maladaptive patterns, and the fighting. Because really, people are just attempting to survive and fulfill their needs. Kody Brown's book gives us a real insight into what it is like to try to have your needs met in a family when your spiritual husband is going to have his new bride be his plaything, and just lazily and ignores all his other responsibilities. It is an insight into how for Kody, jealousy also spurred an awakening to some degree. But there isn't responsibility on Kody's end either. And I don't say this so that I can condemn her, I just say it in order to be honest. That is just because every single person has his or her own niche in his or her life and in whatever he or she is doing, and no matter what happens when there is a fight, even if I think that I am right, or if you are right, that doesn't necessarily make me wrong. And just because I did not mean to hurt you, that is no guarantee I didn't. No one's behavior is always perfect when you are in a stressed out relationship or stressful relationship. So it just becomes enabling of toxic behavior from everyone involved. And Kody, it seems, developed this maladaptive coping mechanism of wearing rose-colored glasses. I think it is almost a form of denial where she has trouble looking beyond the good, and she has trouble looking beyond the hope, because to do so would maybe shatter her mirror of what she thought her life was. But I also think it is how she copes with her own failures and her own doubts and her own shortfalls. Because we all fail. To me, Kody's book exposed the manner in which Robyn joining the family brought out a part of her that may have been latent. It likely exposed her to the fact that her marriage with Kody was not what she had thought it was to be, though I do think she knew that marriage wasn't good even before Robyn came. But I also think that it likely opened up this jealousy that she has talked about. These insecurities and not knowing how that insecurity impacts other people. And, too, that maybe she wasn't the nicest to Robyn either. Even though she claimed she was, Maybe she wasn't the most at ease for Robyn. Maybe Robyn didn't feel like she could trust her because she didn't know whether or not Kody would be real with her. Kody speaks extensively about the way that she felt like she needed to put on a show and be a part. So she would pretend and pretend to be nice. And if people are able to pick up on the fact that you are not being genuine, maybe that is going to affect their relationship with you. I am not saying Robyn's perfect or anything, but I do believe that if you were in a relationship with her, she'd be hard to trust. Because she wants to be super nice and attempt to be really accommodating to your face. But then on a personal level, in her head, she is like, I don't like you. I hate you. You are a horrible person. And that is just as hard to trust. It is just as hard to trust someone who is not being sincere about being happy as it is to trust someone who frankly games and runs and tattles on you and does things behind your back. Right? I think Kody and Robyn are closer than Kody and Kody are different. But I think ultimately the position that Kody and Robyn put them in was abusive to all of them. And I think that what they did was not right. But I think that Kody was also guilty of not leaving earlier. And if you do read the book and you come away thinking, I don't think that you stayed on the show for this many years. I don't think that you still stay on the show. I don't think that you didn't leave after the first season or season 6 or whatever it was. Well, that is the idea. And you find yourself questioning her. I think that is normal. She says people ask her that all the time and that she didn't know she was meant to leave until she had to leave. And I get it, I do. But I think that there is a trick there too. The trick that she stayed so long solely because of her religion, because of her children, because of her family, because of what they had built. But in staying in that relationship for so long, she also exposed her children to a very toxic existence. And for me, the hardest part of this entire book is Christine's lack of introspection regarding how her own decisions harmed her children. That is the toughest thing, because even toward the end, after all the neglect and the abuse that her children had to endure from Kody, after everything her children had to go through, there is still a total lack of sense that she did anything wrong or that she could have done anything differently. She still says she has no regrets. I think people who can't have regrets are typically people who don't want to admit failure. And I think when you are brought up in a cult like this, you can't admit failure because you are narcissistic. You are taught that you are the chosen one and that you are perfect. Christine describes how her mom abandoned the church and how she began to question the faith at a very young age. When her mom left, it had the reverse effect on her in that she buried her heels deeper into the faith so that she might make her mom out to be wrong. She became more religious, more devout, and more narcissistic herself, because she believed if she was more godly, then she would get more blessings from heaven. Here is something from the book that captures this so well. The ironic thing about eternal marriages and piety is that there is a narcissism to piety. God will reward me if I stick with this marriage. God will deem me worthy more than others. If I were miserable and God loved me more as a result, what did he think of happy individuals? Wasn't that what I'd asked as a child, that God was judgmental? Weren't my parents raising me to think he was loving? But I'd also made a promise to that same God, to Kody, and to my sister wives. And promises within relationship can also be narcissism. Yes, don't cheat on me with women you aren't married to. Yes, parent with me. Yes, work hard with me to make this forever. But also, if you don't like me, let me go and find somebody who does. Don't deprive me of the possibility of being loved. I am sure you think I'll die without you, but your rejection will not kill me. And I don't believe God wants us to be miserable. She claims she did not realize that Kody's inability to be a partner was a violation of that everlasting contract. Nobody informs you of that. She views Kody and Robyn's relationship as an act of infidelity, which is this odd, complicated mindset since she is already involved in a relationship where he has other women and he is not being devoted to any of them. She, however, says, "I was outraged when I learned that Kody had kissed Robyn when they became engaged." Kody was perplexed at that. "Remember how embarrassed I was about an awkward kiss at the altar. Kiss the next one before you marry her because our first kiss was awkward and that was terrible. I had told him many years earlier before another bride had appeared on the horizon, and also there should be no wives at the first kiss. That must be special," and he agreed. "And then I found out he'd been kissing Robyn. You are married and kissing another woman, we've talked about this. You said you'd wished you hadn't had your first kiss at the altar. Don't you remember that?" "I do. I said that because I did remember. I remembered it vividly how unromantic every part of it had been. But this pain since it was also horribly romantic, as he was in love with her. Looking back, I don't think the kiss itself bothered me as much as the intimacy. It did not feel fair, but it also felt like something he could not resist." Christine was so insecure in her marriage to Kody. They had such superficiality to their relationship that bringing in another woman was never going to work with her because she already doubted her place. She already doubted their connection, and she already doubted if he truly loved her. And when Robyn came into the picture, I know it is simple from the outside looking in to put everything on Robyn's shoulders, but I think that Kody is the guilty one in this. She discusses when they get the show and they do engagement photos for it. They do promo photos for the show. And then Kody calls Robyn sexy, and Christine overhears him calling her that. He is always groveling about how gorgeous Robyn is. So Christine then spends a few chapters obsessing about her own weight, about how she is fat and ugly. She spends all this time discussing how much she weighs, how much she wants to weigh, and how much she doesn't weigh. And to me, that is really the real trauma here, that Kody put Robyn so far above that it made Christine feel like if she just lost a little more weight, if she just did more for him, if she just did more and looked better, and was prettier, then he would love her more. And that is all Kody's fault. Robyn can't control her size. She was 30 or whatever. She has got the body she has got, the metabolism she has got, the appearance she has got, right? None of that is hers to control. She is also just a female who loves wearing makeup and getting all fixed up pretty like. That is just who she is. And Christine didn't feel like she could compete with that, and Kody made her feel like she couldn't compete with that. So while the jealousy is directed at Robyn, really it should squarely be laid at Kody's feet. A lot of her anger at Robyn isn't necessarily well placed on the right person. And yeah, she does admit that sometimes she has said that she wishes she hadn't made it seem like she was mad at Robyn and had laid blame where it actually belonged, on Kody, but I believe what he did was play on that insecurity that she had to really get in her head. I believe he used Robyn as a means to try and make Christine the way he wanted her to be. Right, as in, well, if you can just be a little bit more like Robyn, then I'll love you more. Christine says he can't help it, but no man needs to introduce another wife if he already has all these other women. He doesn't need to fall in love. He doesn't need to abandon his family. That was a decision. He can make that decision. You can make the decision not to speak with other people when you are married and looking outside your marriage for love. You absolutely can make that decision. So she does give him more leeway than he probably deserves. I believe his wholesale preference for Robyn is what made her focus on Robyn and hate on her, because Kody just wanted to be with Robyn. He did appear to have a natural attraction to her, correct? She was the kind of way he wished his wife looked. She was the kind of way he wished his wife acted. And he wanted everybody else to be that way because it was what he desired. He pictured things being easier if everyone was kind of like Robyn, which is just a horrible, horrible dynamic. Nobody should ever have to compete like that, but her self-worth did get hurt because of Kody placing Robyn's appearance above all the rest. And then her being so insecure that he goes and writes a book, refers to her as fat, and says he wasn't drawn to her. So I feel for her a lot regarding that. Now, if we're about to flip it around, I think where Robyn let Christine down is that Robyn abused her position being the favorite. It is like Robyn became power drunk and enjoyed the power that brought her. She felt she could get anything she wanted from Kody as long as she could play the victim in every single moment, so she abused it. She understood that Kody wanted to protect her. She knew he would do anything for her if she could continually be the victim of the rest of them. I think that Robyn was then able to successfully pit him against the other wives. So it is like Kody's trying to pit the wives against each other, and Robyn's really just trying to pit Kody against the rest of them. They're two narcissists playing a game of narcissism, and where Robyn gets her dirty is by, confiding in Christine about it, and then Robyn going around telling Kody what she had told her. I sort of think that was the true point of betrayal with her. There are a number of points with Robyn where it is obvious that their relationship just isn't going to work. She writes early on about when Robyn goes to try on her wedding gown. Christine later learns that Robyn went with Kody and didn't mention it to anyone. So Robyn and Kody began keeping secrets, which she felt was so disrespectful. Since they were doing all that on the show so openly, she felt it was a huge slap in the face for them to then go off stage, behind the scenes, and do it without telling anyone. And at the time, it didn't so much feel like Robyn was genuinely sorry as much as she'd just been caught out. We got a little more of that when they went and got their engagement photos taken together. They were obviously far more comfortable with each other than they were on camera, or, indeed, than they should have been at that stage. Christine was a religious. Don't kiss, very chaste person, very religious. I'd say out of all of them, she was probably the most religious. And I think she didn't like Robyn because Robyn was much freer with all of these rules and didn't really understand the basic principles of polygamy. I think Robyn got herself into relationships and maybe even tried to assist, but in doing so, she ended up creating more drama since she was able to mold and influence Kody's mind on matters. Christine talks a lot about how Kody's entire mentality and way of talking began to shift, as though he was reading from Robyn's script verbatim. There is this conversation she has with Robyn about family traditions, and Robyn interprets that as Christine trying to pull rank. Or another example, Christine tells Robyn that her daughter could have died because Kody was too worried about Robyn's kids and not hers, and Robyn takes that personally. Christine easily admits within the book that Robyn was so in need of Kody's time and attention that it came at everyone else's expense. She wanted things, she wanted money and material objects, more than she wanted the family. And that greed, that need for more and more, always to be in the center at everyone else's expense, is really what created a huge issue in the family. And then there is just the dishonesty. Kody and Robyn would do something, and just not be truthful about it. A prime example is when they relocated to Flagstaff. They don't tell the family that they are moving because Dayton got accepted into NA. So they make up this lie that it is due to the Raiders football team moving, that it is to get the children out of an unsafe environment. When really they moved their entire family so Robyn could be close to her child, yet Christine was ripped away from all of hers. And here is another instance of Robyn getting more. Christine's ring loses a stone, she asks for a new one, and Kody says they can't afford it. But then he goes out and buys a ring with a diamond for Robyn. Now Robyn's never had one, and Christine has had 2 diamond rings in the past, so it is an odd thing to be mad about on the surface. But Christine's point is, he didn't do that for me. He goes and tucks Robyn's children in every single night, but he won't do that for her and his own children together. He puts Robyn's children on a pedestal over her own children. He takes Robyn's children out to dinner all the time. He never takes Christine's. He never buys Christine's children nice gifts, but always spoils Robyn's. I just feel like Robyn expected more. And I also think Kody was less secure in his relationship with Robyn, so he was always having to buy her stuff to court her, to show his love, to get her to conquer. I think Robyn was more secure in the sense that she didn't need Kody, and so she played that to her advantage, always saying that she was going to leave. So Kody is chasing after a woman who is quite obviously only using him for money. Christine calls them soulmates, but I don't think Robyn and Kody are soulmates. I don't. I think they use each other. I don't think they have this solely bonded, highly connected relationship. I think Kody is in love with who she seems to be, and the status that he receives from having her as a trophy wife. And Christine was like the older, out-of-shape wife that he could just disregard, be cruel to, and ignore her kids. And truthfully, what this story is actually about, in my opinion, is what happens when a man creates a favorite wife, and the destructive impact that has on all the other women left behind in the shade, and the children who are overlooked because of it. I mean, I do believe that it is clear that Robyn isn't of the highest motives. I believe she is 100% greedy and 100% selfish. She wasn't there for the family at all. So I believe Christine was right not to be able to trust her. But then again, I believe Kody did a great job of making Robyn not trust the other women. And I think ultimately, if all these women were not polygamous, a lot of these behaviors would just not exist. They would not be fighting and competing for one man's attention. They would not be constantly comparing what the other woman has that they don't. They would not care what he was doing every time he was not at their house. But what Kody did was more than just have a favorite wife. He abandoned all of his other wives. And I think the biggest betrayal for all these women is that Kody and Robyn just did everything for a television show. They used them, lied to them, deceived them, stringed them along, and exploited them for money. And I completely get why Christine is so bitter about all of these things. But I think, to the same degree, she still profits from the show. She is writing this book and profiting from it. She is telling her story, which she has told 1,000,000 times now. And she is better. She is more outside of the cult than she once was. But she does have a lot of that same old programming left in her. I don't believe she'll ever be able to actually dissect what she went through until she allows herself to honestly feel the pain of it all, to not have to be tough for polygamy, and to pretend that everything is fine and that something is not wrong with the system itself. Because at the end of it all, it is easier for her to blame Kody. It is easier for her to blame Robyn, rather than blame the polygamy system itself for having created this toxic dynamic. It is easier to blame them rather than say, polygamy is bad. It would be harder to hear that her grandfather was not the perfect man she tells us he is, or that there is inherent abuse in this cult. I think she desires Kody and Robyn to be at fault, so she doesn't have to admit that the bigger problem here is polygamy. That doesn't necessarily make Kody and Robyn correct by any means, but they're out there as a result of a cult. They're operating in the parameters and limits of a cult, and the culture that has been imposed upon it. Kody is a result of that cult just as much as she is. If we are going to place the blame anywhere, then let's place it on polygamy. I hope she comes to a point where she realizes that it is the system and not her fault, and that it is okay to say you were wrong. And yes, they did betray her, and they did cheat on her, and they did transgress far beyond the boundaries of piety. They went beyond all bounds. But then again, all of that is what turned her around to what she was missing out on in life. So maybe that is the silver lining on all of this. I don't know. The dynamic between Robyn and Christine is far more complex than Robyn is a bad person and Kody is a bad person. They're all trapped in a bad system, and that is the truth. So, her full breakdown of all Robyn's betrayals are in the book. Leave me a comment below with your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and click the bell so you never miss one of my videos. Thanks ever so much for watching.